Hello, how are you doing? Thanks for joining me again. A little bit of a quick thrown together video this time. I haven't got the black and white film yet to finish off the 8mm video. I will do that in a future episode as soon as I can. But one of the things that I talked about in that video was my love of Kodachrome, and I dug out this box of slides from one of the very last rolls of Kodachrome that was produced. Obviously not the last roll of Kodachrome, because there's a documentary about that which is well worth watching. I think it was Steve McCurry, some famous photographer, got to shoot the last roll of Kodachrome. But this is one of the last rolls, and I've not looked at the results since. Hopefully it will be a little interesting bit of nostalgia. But if that doesn't float your boat, skip forward, because the other thing that I'm going to be doing is shooting this. Harman Phoenix in 120 format. Now, sadly, I'm not one of the special people that gets sent things in advance to look at, so I just had to wait like everybody else until this was released. I nipped into the Real Camera Company in Manchester because I was in Manchester for a meeting yesterday, and apparently I was the first person to ask for a roll. They just got theirs in, so it's really nice to get hold of this, and I'm going to shoot it at 100 speed and see how it works out. I might shoot one frame at 200 because I'm going to get it processed as normal anyway and just see which works best. So the second half of this video will be me shooting this and looking at the results of it. But let's crack on first of all with the Kodachrome. So if we open up this classic yellow box, we can see how the slides arrived, and they are from Dwayne's photo, which was, I believe, the last lab to process Kodak. They had the last lot of chemicals to use. If we look at the slides themselves, you can see that they are dated August 09, which is when they were both shot and sent for processing. A little slice of history. Okay, so I thought I would briefly go through the slide scanning process because it is slightly different from using a negative holder. So for those of you that are interested, again, if you're not, just skip this. Here you've got the holder. Take your slides, pop one in like so, and you see it fits nicely, and then we slide that into the light panel, which you can then switch on like that. And then the important thing is getting the white balance set correctly for this light with the camera. I am shooting raw, so it's less important, but because it's not a negative film, the colours are the colours. It already looks gorgeous, so I want to make sure that I'm getting the maximum resolution. So I'll go for a minimum focusing distance. I'm going to turn on live view here and make sure we're sharp, using the ×10 there to see, and I will keep adjusting shutter speed to account for the fact that some of the slides are brighter than others. And here, 36 clicks later, we can see the results. These are all straight scans with the setup that you saw. They've come out really nicely, and they've brought back some real memories as well. I flew into Crete, took a ferry to Paros, I took another ferry to Athens, stayed in Athens briefly, got a ferry from the port over to Italy, and then I took a train from Bari up into France, stopped in Paris, and then came back by Eurostar. So I remember this trip very, very well. It was full of incident and accident, but in terms of what it means to you, it's more about the technical side of things. So this is a nighttime image, and it was shot from the back of the ferry that I'd boarded. I think this is the port near Athens. I can't remember the name of it now. And yeah, the colours are really interesting. You can see the dusk, and those are Kodachrome colours, I would say. There's another shot here taken from, I think this is a different ferry, and I love this photo because it's kind of the boredom of travelling, but the romance of travelling as well. I mean, we were all just sat on the deck waiting to reach our destination, and you can see the woman in front smoking a cigarette, the guy sleeping with his suitcases. We were all the people who couldn't afford to get cabins, if I remember rightly, because I tried to save a few quid by sleeping on the deck. You could get a deck ticket or you could get a cabin, and I slept on the deck thinking it was going to be gorgeous, and it was until about 10 p.m. when it became incredibly cold, and I basically spent the same amount I would have spent on the cabin, in fact probably more, on espressos down in the nightclub that was on the ferry to stay warm because I didn't want to go back up on deck again. So yeah, false economy, always get yourself a cabin if you're travelling on a ferry. Here is an image which I think is from Paros, and people at dusk on boats, and there's two of them. You can see the motion blur in this one because they were moving. The other picture, it was all static, so obviously you've got the creaminess of the sea because of the motion blur there, but everything else is fairly sharp. I don't know what the shutter speed would have been. The camera that I had with me on this trip is the one that I was using when I started doing this channel, and you can see it here. This is a picture that I took in my hotel bathroom in the mirror, so again it's under tungsten light, which is why it's all orange, but you can see that's the rangefinder that I used until it's actually pretty much called it a day now. It's not completely pin sharp, but I was able to use narrow apertures for most of the time. This was Kodachrome 64 that I was using, so it's 64 ISO, but in Greece there was plenty of light. I really like this picture. It's a classic travel picture. It really does say Greece to me. It's obviously got Hellenic seaways, which is a bit of a giveaway, but just the blue of the sea, the blue of the sky, the red, the vibrant colours, it's lovely, and I think Kodachrome shows it off to its full advantage. This shot as well shows how Kodachrome handled all the colours, the vivid pinks of these little strollers that were for sale, and all the toys and comics and seaside accoutrements that were on sale at this little shack by the water. And you can see the couple walking past, and the skin tones are really nicely reproduced as well. It's so lifelike, and it's not quite real life because it's got that Kodachrome saturation, but it's life as I would like to remember it. This was actually shot on the balcony of my home at the time, and again, the colours are so faithful. The brick, it was that colour. The backpack, it was that colour. And the towel that's lying on the floor was that colour. And it's subtle. It's not overbearingly oversaturated here. I mean, it was a cloudy day, so it wasn't the same as actually in Greece. But I just think it's so real. I feel like I could reach out and touch that place again. Now, I am prone to nostalgia and romanticising the past, but I just think these images, they're not the best images. They're certainly not ones that I would put in an exhibition or would want to be judged by as a photographer, but they really do take me back to a place and a time. This image, I think, is probably one of the few that I would actually put in an exhibition. It kind of expresses my feelings again. It's an advert for Coca-Cola that was on the side of a building. What you can see there is the advert, but also there are chains that were holding the door that the advert was printed on closed, so you weren't able to get in. I kind of like that idea, which comes across in a lot of my work, of the gatekeeping of things. You've got this advert for something that you would really want, but then it's chained off from you, and I think that's why I took the picture at the time. So if you look at these other images that I took, these are ones that I took digitally on other trips to Greece, to the islands. I went there many times. It's one of my favourite places to travel to. And I think they're really nice pictures as well. But there's something about those Kodachrome images. Maybe it's just because I haven't seen them up to now, and it's my nostalgia and it's seeing something fresh, whereas the other images I've seen over the years from time to time when I've backed up my archive or when I've been looking for an image to represent something or to demonstrate a technique. So I love all these images, and I think technically and artistically the digital ones are far superior to the Kodachrome ones, because they were taken to be taken seriously, whereas the Kodachrome ones, it was literally, oh, I want to shoot Kodachrome because it's going to disappear and I'm going to shoot my holiday snaps. I don't want to take an expensive camera away with me because I'm going to be on my own, travelling on ferries, etc. So I'll take the cheapest camera that I've got and I can post off this film while I'm away, and I don't have to worry about losing it while I'm away. They are proper snapshots, and I guess that fits what I think Kodachrome was for. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed looking back at them. Even if you didn't, I really did, and I was just glad to have the excuse. So let's move on and back to the second part of this video, which is looking at not an old film, but a very, very new film, which is the Harman Phoenix 120. So having loaded up my Mamiya RB67, I went out into Stockport to try and get some pictures to show what the film was capable of. And to start with, I decided to photograph the same scene at both 100 speed and 200 speed to check whether the box speed was the most suitable, or, as I suspected, that 100 would be better. Both of these were processed exactly the same, so they should be comparable. As you can see here, unfortunately, the first frame is fogged, and I don't know quite how this happened. I was really careful loading and unloading the film. The 100, there is more detail in the shadows, and the sky is still not blown out. So I think 100 speed is the way to go, although this is far from a scientific test, particularly with the issues I encountered. Right, let's crack on. I've only got 8 frames left, so I'd better make the most of them now. So I'm here at Didsbury Parsonage, and I'm going to try and get a shot of this. It's been absolutely pouring down, but there's some nice sunlight now, so hopefully I can make the most of it. So we'll see how we go with that. So yeah, technically I think this is absolutely fine. It's not a very interesting composition, but I was really struggling just to get some shots in this awful weather. The shadows are a little bit muddy, but if I do a little bit of Photoshop editing on this photo, you can see that I can produce a nice end result. Weather's not getting any better. Now, one of the things that I noticed that the Phoenix 35mm did really well was I like the halation around the highlights and bulbs and things like that. Now, I've heard that it's not quite so pronounced in the 125, in the 120, sorry. But we'll take a picture here and we'll see how it works anyway. So again, it's not the most exciting picture in the world, but I think it does show that the halation around the bulbs is there and the detail is there. If you look at the close-up of the chalkboards, you can read all the writing really clearly there. It's interesting to see that they close at 3 PM on rainy days, and this was certainly a rainy day, so no wonder they had closed up their doors. Having taken that shot, I decided to try and get something low angle and make the most of the reflections in the puddles. Unfortunately, this frame again is fogged. Possibly when I rotated the back to go to portrait orientation, there's a light leak there. I don't know, I'll have to investigate further. So let's just look at another few of the frames that I shot. There were only 10 frames on the roll. I think this would be an image that would work a lot better in black and white. In fact, I've converted it to black and white to get the moodiness across that I thought I wanted to get from this image. But when it's in colour, it just looks rather bland. And another picture I took to show the halation, and I really actually like this picture. This is one of the few that I think is actually worth taking, probably the only one that was actually worth taking, because this tree that was actually outside the churchyard in Fletcher Moss, it has some sort of glowing quality to it, and I think this is where Phoenix really works, where you've got a lot of contrast behind another object. And you can see if I'd shot this at 200, I think you'd have lost too much detail in the trunk of the tree and in the branches. Just a final shot, I thought I ought to get a portrait. It does show that the skin tones reproduce fairly accurately. The hair, that is the colour of Lucy's hair. So that's the end of my time with Phoenix. What's my view? Jury's still out. I've actually got another roll, and what I might do is put it in the 645 back and take it out to somewhere where I can get more interesting shots than I could get just wandering around Stockport and Didsbury. So yeah, jury's out. Interesting to try. I think probably preferred it in the 35mm, but again, it's the choice of subject. Okay, so that's it for this time. I hope you picked something out of the mishmash of different bits and bobs that I've thrown together this episode. The next one will be a bit more of a coherent whole, so do join me for that one. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss it. Give me a like, it really, really helps, and I will see you again very, very soon. Until I do, whatever you're doing, take care of yourselves, enjoy it. Bye for now.